Welcome to another episode of the NeoLiberal Round Podcast, and this particular episode is a dressed down episode. Well, what podcast is not always dressed down? Podcast is not part. Podcast is part of social media. It's part of the citizenship journalism revolution. Podcasting is not mainstream media. I call it an alternative media. But I was having a conversation with Dante recently, and I said to him, someone asked about some recommendation for podcasting, and I said, don't give up, be dynamic. It's part of what is going to be driving this the revolution, and what we're seeing an effort to regulate communication, to regulate artificial intelligence, to regulate social media, and artificial intelligence help to facilitate this kind of explosion in social media. And I believe that it's part of this digital revolution, the social and digital revolution. Social artificial intelligence is part of that. Recently, Barack Obama, about 2 or 3 years ago, we heard Barack Obama was touting regulating social media or digital media or communication. Now we're hearing about artificial intelligence, but the two go hand in hand. But today I want to talk about or share or present an article that I wrote in the Neoliberal Journal. It's going to be part of a section of the new book I'm writing. Many of you know I'm writing a book, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Neo-Capitalism and the Death of Nations. I'm not settled on the title yet, but it's going to be Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, and we deal with capitalism and neoliberalism at length. Myself and Professor Emeritus Dr. Martin Oppenheimer, we talk at length about neo-capitalism or the new capitalism, but we also talk about pseudo-communism as well, and we touch on what's going on in the world. And we've been working on this book for a while now, but we talk about the issue. Communication is part of the whole neoliberal globalization narrative or the conversation that we are having in the book. We also speak about the issue of what will upend violence, the violence that has that has created income inequality, the violence of poverty, discrimination. What will end that kind of violence? And we talk about the issue of social media, but there's also this digital divide while there is a move to regulate information. But I want to share with you a particular article today. And the reason why I decided to, I wrote it a long time ago. It's part of the book. It was published in the NeoLiberal Journal. It's at the NeoLiberal Corporation, the neoliberal.com, many weeks ago. But I decided not to promote it. It was published, but it wasn't promoted. I was waiting until the right time, and this is the right time because President Biden has recently announced, and just today, he said that my executive order on artificial intelligence represents bold action, but that shouldn't stop Congress from acting. He went on by saying in the tweet which we posted up today. Today I met with Leader Schumer and a group of bipartisan members of Congress to underscore the need for legislation that harness the power of AI safely. We've carried several news stories and articles in journals. We've had discussions about artificial intelligence. As a professor myself who works in education, that is one of the things that I have asked for academics and academic institutions and administrations or administrators to deal with. In fact, artificial intelligence questions the need for schooling. And I've talked about that, whether or not artificial intelligence and the access to information as a result of artificial intelligence begins to question the need for the way in which institutional institutions or institutionalization of education or the information. You don't have to go to school or to sit in a class and to pay huge sums of money to get an education. You can access things. You can access that other ways, and artificial intelligence helps to facilitate that. Two of the wealthiest people in the world today never had a college degree. Not that education is not important, but the argument is that they have access. But I commented on that today, and I decided, and I shared the article the links to the article. But I also want to present the article in an audiobook narration kind of a way, because so I said in the tweet today, Biden said today that my executive order on artificial intelligence represents bold action, but that shouldn't stop Congress from acting. So I asked a question underneath that. So I said, question: who controls the narratives in the 21st century? Who controls the narratives in the 21st century that has seen the decentralization of communication and control of information, that has seen the decentralization of communication and control of information, thanks to social and alternative media? Thanks to social and alternative media. And I said at POTUS, at President Biden, this drive to regulate information and artificial intelligence must be approached with suspicion and scrutiny. Must be approached with suspicion and scrutiny. And so today on the podcast, I'm going to lift up that particular article, which is a section of the book Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Neo-Capitalism and the Death of Nations. The title of the article is Communication is to Make Popular What Was the Monopoly, which is also part of our tagline, part of our efforts here. Our tagline, which is our goal, our vision, is to to serve the world today, the NeoLiberal Corporation, and by extension all of the neoliberal outlets, including the NeoLiberal Round Podcast. Our goal is we aim to serve the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. How do we do that? By making popular what was the monopoly. Okay, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what I'm going to be presenting today on that particular article, which is a section in the book. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the episode. I'm Renaldo McKenzie, your host and producer and the creator of the NeoLiberal Round Podcast. The NeoLiberal Round Podcast is a production of the NeoLiberal Corporation, the neoliberal.com and renaldocmckenzie.com, which the NeoLiberal Corporation is serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by making popular what was the monopoly. In fact, that is our tagline, and that is our aim, and that is what we hope to do. Now, just so you know, you can visit the NeoLiberal Round by going to anchor.fm. You can subscribe to the NeoLiberal Round on any podcast stream, on any streaming service in platform in video, on YouTube, the NeoLiberal Round, Spotify. You can watch or listen on Spotify, and we are also available on iHeartRadio, Apple, the Audible, Amazon, Radio Public, Stitcher, Outcast, Pocket Casts, so on and so forth. Did I say the Audible, Google Podcast as well? And there's nowhere where we are not. Subscribe to the show, support us, please. Leave us a donation as well, if you can, and you can, if you want to access the article, you can go to our main website, which is at theneoliberal.com and renaldocmckenzie.com. Now, the article that I'm going to be presenting on today is entitled "Communication is to Make Popular What Was the Monopoly," and it's an article that again is in the neoliberal journals at the NeoLiberal Corporation's More Magazine website. The article is a part of Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Neo-Capitalism and the Death of Nations, and this particular article was published on August 16, 2023, just as Obama was touted as the information or communication czar, the one who was supposed to lead the charge in regulating or getting the information regulated. We're not sure what has happened since then, but today we're hearing that they are trying to regulate information, but in the way how they're doing that through artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence helps to facilitate social and digital media and the explosion of that. But I begin the article by asking the question: Who controls the narratives in the 21st century that has seen the decentralization of communication and control of information? Thanks to social and alternative media, and by extension, artificial intelligence. Therefore, no one really has control. What we have is a plethora of perspective, staples of information, for us to access and analyze information that was once reserved. This is necessary as it helps to realize the goal of communication, which is to make popular what was the monopoly. And man has always challenged or obstructed access to information so as to increase, maintain, or establish power or hold over a society or a people. However, social media challenges and is an affront to this power, even as it helps communication realizes its aim of making popular what was or is the monopoly. And with more social media, you find more artificial intelligence. Now, the drive to regulate information must be approached with a level of suspicion and scrutiny because of the rational and so-called pure intentions of this regulatory effort to manage news, calling it a corrective means of dispelling misinformation or disinformation or crazy news. On the other hand, the need to regulate artificial intelligence was once also seen as a need to regulate what? To rein in what? Those who would misuse it, yes, would misuse it to create gain for themselves that rivals the gain of the status quo. However, the strategy to do so would suggest, now let's say this again, the drive to regulate information must be approached with a level of suspicion and scrutiny because of the rational and so-called pure intentions of this regulatory effort to manage news, calling it a corrective means of dispelling misinformation or disinformation or crazy news. However, the strategy to do so would suggest that Americans aren't individuals with brains who can filter and analyze information and make decisions for themselves based on the news that they have received or based on external stimuli. The problem is that news have become a political and divisive issue, and the fact that social media helps to decentralize control of information, thereby providing greater access and several more diverse perspectives of the news, means that no one or two groups can control. Further, if you have money, then you can control the narrative. And when you look at elections and politics in America, one cannot rely on major news outlets or sources as their news is riddled in political ideology and the spin of the news that satisfy their big money backers. For example, Fox, CNN, and MSNBC are prime examples of news outlets that are not innocent of the crime of monopolizing the news for its cronies so as to extend their support or their supporters' control or to create, establish, or maintain power or a political dynamic. So social media poses problems for these major news outlets and their money backers. Not just social media, artificial intelligence and social media. The monies they will lose due to the competition and the political fallout. Yet CNN in August was carrying a story about Obama's work to regulate social media so as to preserve the integrity of news when that has never been the case given how divided major news is today. In fact, and if truth be told, it is major news outlets that need regulating given their responsibility that they have shirked over the years, succumbing to the new capitalism of nepotism, connectionism, and greed. News was reserved for a few, and what is happening now is a response and reaction to what news has become. And what artificial intelligence and the chat GPT, what that means for mainstream businesses today. It is decentralizing certain technology has decentralized certain tools that you would need in order to generate lucrative business, especially in the information world. Information is big business. And if you control the narrative, but now with artificial intelligence and social media, it limits the control. It widens the competition. It affects the bottom line. Social media is a direct response and reaction to the control and corruption of information, stemming from this divisive and nepotistic news cycle, which was at best divided and political, or may I say information cycle. You have a lot of mama and papa stores that depend heavily on chat GPT and open AI today, because they can hire people to do basic and essential functions that open AI can do. And what I have argued, and many people have argued, like Elon Musk and many smart and effective thinking people, is that we need to rethink some of the things that we have institutionalized, such as information and school and education. Maybe we need to rethink that. With the technology that we have today, we do not need to institutionalize and pay huge sums of money and spend years to get an academic education in order to do whatever we need to do. Now that that education and the way and institutions are now cashing in, and their cashing in is affected by the artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence is also going to question the way we look at society today, the dynamic of the society, how we view money, how we view work and compensation and the value of money. Maybe we have to think about a barter system. This is not the time for it, because I discuss that at length in the book, and I talk about that at one of my lectures in one of the classes I teach. I would explore society. So the question is, are we really trying to regulate news? Are we really trying to regulate artificial intelligence? Are we really trying to regulate information? Or are we censoring it, or try to manipulate it to continue a monopoly of the news and media or information? Communication is to make popular what was the monopoly, and mainstream news over the years, or mainstream news is monopoly over the media and news over the years have waned. Let me say that again. Let me read it again. If communication is to make popular what was the monopoly, and mainstream news is monopoly over the media and news have waned over the years with the growth of social media such as Facebook, Twitter, bloggers, podcasts, who now command a huge share of their audience, and of course the artificial intelligence that help to facilitate or help to improve the cosmetics, the aesthetics of independent news journalists and writers and independent citizens journalists. The issue of competition. So therefore, the issue is competition, and that's where we're going. The issue is competition, which is what we encourage in this country. But the status quo, who had controlled information and the technology that goes with it, or the news, they are seeking through policy, and the hero of the people. Back then it was Obama, now it's through President. It was Obama then, now probably a couple of months ago, now it's Biden, so as to reposition themselves as the only arbiters of truth. That is perspectival and slanted at best. Their news is perspectival and slanted, in effect re-centralizing control of information and re-monopolizing communication through a soft means, regulation which is not soft, to make it appear as an innocent endeavor. Similarly, Russia is trying to recolonize Ukraine because Russia believes it's losing its hold on the region. This is no different. Those who were leaders of the news, of the news and their technology, are now backing and promoting and supporting a plan and scheme to remonopolize the news and media as their power decreases along with those of their backers. So not only are they regulating the information, but also the technology that goes with it, artificial intelligence. So control of information is becoming more decentralized and not centralized in a few hands, which is advantageous to the maintenance of privilege, power, status, and position in society. The regulations of social media speaks to the control of information, and totalitarian leaders and nations are infamous for controlling certain narratives so as to produce a particular effect, as in Russia and China. But where information is dispersed, it prevents this unilateral hold. However, in America, major news outlets are backing Obama's efforts to re-establish this centralization of the news through the regulation of social media, calling it ways to address disinformation, when the only way to do so is by having an educated mass of people who can utilize their brains to do the work of regulating news that is coming at them. That was what I said in August when this was happening. Was this August of this year or last year? But of course, it didn't stop. Now they're trying to regulate I think it's August of this year. Actually, it has to be August of last year, because we're we're over a year in the Russian war now, and it was right after the war. So it's actually last year August. But of course, now we're looking at artificial intelligence. But let's follow this story. According to CNN, Barack Obama hopes to regulate social media that promote disinformation and find ways to address the demand for crazy on the internet that has filled a void as news outlets have diminished. I disagree. Because mainstream and major or local news and outlets and networks are just as crazy and highly divisive, and has allowed for the news to be manipulated and controlled by the power brokers. News is slanted based on the sponsorship's ideological or political position. Indeed, it's a political issue. I have argued that it's a political issue, not social media. And if anything, social media is a victory for social movements and mass of people who now have access, to a wide variety of news that they can analyze and make their own conclusions. What should happen is for us to educate our people to be better filters of news. We are not a country that regulate news so as to restore the power dynamics that has kept down the masses or certain people. But now we are okay. But of course, fast forward to today. Now we are trying to regulate artificial intelligence. The social media thing didn't work out. Now we're going to try and regulate artificial intelligence. That's even more dangerous. But mainstream news and their sponsors, because of course I said to people, artificial intelligence is going to question the need for work. We are institutionalizing education. We're institutionalizing certain requirements which does not really need to be required. We don't need to require people to do certain things anymore. The wealthiest people in the world don't have a college degree. We need to revisit school and relook at school. And as a professor myself who teaches at a college, that's one of the questions. And I've also approached several other college administrators to talk about the need to revisit academia and what the expectations. We talk about the roadways. One of the reasons why Teslas don't work very well is because we need to revisit the roadways and change the systems. Not only that, we need to change human tendencies as well in terms of how people drive. But in terms of the institutionalizing education, we have to change that now. In fact, we have to go back to having apprentices or proteges or mentees, where the older skilled cobblers would take on their apprentice, and by 12, 13 they are learning the ropes. By 16 they can cobbler. Technology has made learning and connecting with people so easy now. When the way we used to think about making money off communication and information, but now that's not the case. It's difficult to make money off something that is popular, that has a lot of access. You regulate it, you limit access. When you regulate, it means when you regulate something, you limit access. You limit access, it means more control. A few people have control over who gets what, where, and you can turn that into money. But mainstream news and their sponsors, who use their wealth and power to maintain hold over the news cycle, which is waning due to social news media and other alternative news and artificial intelligence, they feel justified by their actions to remonopolize and take back control of information through political policy and systems they control. Yet, they defend their regulatory attempts and plans by hurling fake news accusations at social media and the artificial intelligence and social media news outlets and platforms such as BuzzFeed on the Trump dossier issue. In fact, that's the title of a story ran by the Daily News on January 15, 2017. According to the story, 2017, written by Edberto Willis, it was inevitable that the mainstream media would run for cover. BuzzFeed gave them a gem by publishing a confidential dossier detailing Donald Trump's connections to Russia, and they were happy to base much of their reporting on it. But in this era of fake news, euphoria quickly turned into panic. The Trump dossier, filled with salacious allegations of tapes supposedly held by the Russians, was unverified, and BuzzFeed went ahead and reported it as much at the time. Predictably, every major news outlet ran with the story, despite the various disclaimers. After Donald Trump, we didn't run with it, of course, but after Donald Trump vehemently denied the allegations and called out BuzzFeed and CNN for delivering fake news, the mainstream media panic started to set in. The mainstream media's condemnation of alternative or other social media news, such as BuzzFeed, on this issue is unjustified. Let me say that again. The mainstream media's condemnation of alternative or other social media news, such as BuzzFeed, or on this issue, is unjustified. Firstly, they don't have the credibility to pass judgment, given their inability to prevent their airwaves and other properties from being used for disseminating life-altering lies. Secondly, they continue to function as ward of the plutocracy, only promoting their ideology over what is best, over the ideology over what they say is best for Americans and humanity as a whole. So it's time, according to the article, it's time for the alternative media to stand up. And as for mainstream media outlets, until they live up to their constitutional role, they'll remain irrelevant. And that was a story That was a story that and you can check the news article I wrote in the Neoliberal Journals for more information on that. But let me wrap up this story by saying we should be very nervous and suspicious of major news and their political supporters and wealthy sponsors and political mouthpieces who are leading the charge of or to reconsolidate their control over the news and information by regulating artificial intelligence and media, social media, digital media. What moral authority do they have to impose their control that has been at best political and divisive, when social media affects their position and power, and the access and decentralization of information pose problems and threats for them and their narratives and what they hope to achieve? Artificial intelligence. We did an article on artificial intelligence some time ago about the threats, what it poses. But if anything, it really would aid businesses, especially small mama and papa businesses. And it means that we have to rethink about society. Think about in the future we will not need currency anymore, because artificial intelligence will replace work. That's great. So, okay, but people are afraid of people don't work hard anymore. Then what kind of society are we going to have? By then, the artificial intelligence will be able to work for us to continue to improve on the society, while we focus on art and beauty and agriculture. This is the Neoliberal Round Podcast. I discussed this at length in the in my new book, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, New Capitalism and the Death of Nations. That's coming out hopefully by the end of the month. It's October already. We promised it would be out, but I'm still editing the book. It's a lot of work, so it promises to be spectacular and an epic. Probably you will have it. You could give it as a Christmas gift or a Thanksgiving gift, because we want to have it out at least by Thanksgiving or by December. This is the Neoliberal Round Podcast. Please follow me on Twitter, Renaldo McKenzie, or the Neoliberal Co. Facebook, Renaldo.McKenzie. LinkedIn, Reverend Renaldo McKenzie. Or Twitter and TikTok, Renaldo McKenzie. I'm also on Blogger News and on what else? There's another one that we're on. What am I missing, Dante? I'm probably missing another one. But there's nowhere where we are not. Subscribe, support, share the show with your friends. Let us know how we can improve the show. Please visit us and email me at info@theneoliberal.com, or you can also message me by going to Twitter or Instagram, Renaldo McKenzie. Thank you for making it the Neoliberal Corporation. Get a copy of my book. The first book is out. It's already out. It's been out since 2021. It's available here at the Neoliberal Corporation. If you can't get access to the book, message me via Twitter. You can message me on Twitter. I'm available, Renaldo McKenzie, RENALDO MCKENGIE. You can go to theneoliberal.com or RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. What good?